Councilmember Villalpando, are you connected via Zoom? Can you hear us? No? Okay. All right, Mayor. We have 3 council members in quorum, but it's a work session.
We don't need it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for being here today. As we continue working through the fiscal year 2026 budget process, you may recall we held a work session on April the 23rd to review the proposed capital improvement projects for both the general fund and the enterprise fund, as well as personnel changes that were being requested. During that process, we also went through each department's proposed budget in detail to ensure all requests are evaluated carefully and aligned with the city's priorities. Since then, departments have gone through 2 rounds of budget reductions in efforts to present a balanced and realistic budget. I'm proud to say that through the collaborative efforts between our department directors, city administration, we've put together a conservative budget that balances the operational needs of the city with our responsibilities to the community. This budget includes funding for annual cost of living adjustment, addresses ongoing salary compression across the organization, and includes capital improvement projects that will bring meaningful benefit to our residents. Throughout this process, we've worked hard to maintain the level of service our community expects and deserves while making tough choices. I've arrived at a balanced budget that represents a 13% increase from last year's. And for the sake of time, I'll be focusing on the high-level overview of the general fund and enterprise fund, along with the total capital improvement amounts for both. If you have specific questions as I go through the presentation, please don't hesitate to stop me. Following today's session, my next steps will be to begin a formal approval process as we have an adopted budget by June 2025. Thank you again for your time and your continued efforts throughout this process, and I'll continue the presentation.
Shona, can you hold on just a Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Councilman Villapando is trying to log on for some reason. It's not letting him in, so we're going to try to work on getting him in to have your quorum. But just wanted to let you know. All right, Shona, go.
It's okay. In front of you is the revenues. It shows the difference between the fiscal 25 budget and what the proposed 26 budget is. I won't go through each individual line item, but as you can see, fiscal year 25 has $27,366,302 of revenues budgeted for this current fiscal year that we are in now. The proposed revenues, with the help of all the departments and of course, the League of Cities giving us the shared revenue portions, we're anticipating a $30,638,363 input in revenues. The next item is the expenditures. Each individual item is allocated for each department, including our debt services, our grant apportionment projects, our CDBG projects, and then the transfers in that we need. Last year was $27,088,414. This next fiscal year 26, proposed is $30,638,363. Any questions? Next item is our enterprise fund. The transfer ins are included in the first page, but I wanted to, fiscal year 25 current year, our budget for our enterprise fund was $5,141,264. The proposed budget is $5,329,521. The expenses, last year were $5,741,246. And the proposed for fiscal year 26 is $6,204,684.67. Any questions?
So there's no revenues in recycling then?
There is no revenues coming in for recycling. No, there is not. Recycling used to be part of sanitation. It was broken out fiscal year 24, I believe it was, as a division of its own, but there has been no revenues collected for recycling division.
Mayor, if I may, Sean and I did meet over for this division. So we are putting together some information for mayor and council to review with what is going to be our future revenues, what our projections, operations, and so forth. So we'll be working on that to present to council. But there wasn't any that we have currently.
Any more questions? The next slide is, again, going over our overview of the CIP projects. For the 0.8, the total proposed for CIP projects is 660,000.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
On the other one, going back to the
Enterprise?
water,
Mhm.
yeah. Just, are we, is it self-sustaining, the water and everything?
So our enterprise as of right now, currently, for our actuals, yes, we are sustaining as of the 9 months into fiscal year 25. As far as budgetary, no. And due to that is because some of the CIPs didn't get completed for this fiscal year that was budgeted. So that's why it showed underneath. But a lot of it has to do with, I know that you had a few years back raised prices as far as utilities is concerned. And a lot of that study was due to the fact of the growth anticipated. There wasn't no anticipation of COVID. There was no anticipation of the growth at a halt for a couple of years. So I think that's partly the anticipated revenues that we had that was going to be with that study, and with those revenue increases, the growth didn't happen with it. So therefore, the revenues couldn't sustain. So I believe that we are still trying to catch up from that.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
And to answer your question, we are still transferring from the general fund to subsidize the different, these different enterprise funds.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Villalpando.
So with that being said, that our revenues aren't there, so we need to be a little bit cautious on any capital improvement projects that we take on that aren't really necessary at this point in time, correct?
The capital improvement projects underneath the enterprise fund, yes, you are correct, Councilman Villalpando.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman
I was just
Castillo.
gonna ask about how much percentage are we using from the general fund?
Percentage wise, I don't have the percentage right off the top of my head, but if you see on this page right here, fiscal year 25, we're anticipating transferring in almost about 600,000. For fiscal year 26, we're anticipating transferring in 875,000.
So when let's say in your, when do you feel that we're gonna be breaking even or with even anything on a positive emergencies or anything?
Well, our study is 5 years, and our 5 years are up in 2025. The study didn't get done this year, but it is budgeted and anticipated for next fiscal year. In order to understand what the study has included, because the last study, from my understanding and my reading of it, didn't have CIP projects in there. So, and I don't know the reasoning why. I can't answer that question because I wasn't here at that time, but those are the questions we're going to be asking at the beginning of this study in order to make sure that we ensure that our operations are funded as well as the CIP projects that need to be handled in order to move forward. And then if we have that anticipated growth that we're anticipating in the next few years, I think we should be in line pretty quickly. But we're going to bring that back to council as far as this study is concerned and what the recommendations are going to be. You're welcome. Any more questions on enterprise? So I'll move on to the CIPs. These are the general fund CIPs. For mayor and council for the 0.8 tax, we have 660,000 potential or proposed to be budgeted. Also, I'll get to, it's 400,000 on the enterprise side as well from the general fund for the Main Street Phase 1 rehabilitation project. Administration has no CIPs. Finance has one CIP in the total of 23,000. Courts has no anticipated CIPs. Economic development has 285,000. This includes the land acquisitions. Parks and Rec has one CIP for 550,000. Senior Center has no anticipated CIPs. Fire and ambulance has 136,000. Police has 617,297. Out of that amount, 553,982 are grant funded. Animal control has 20,000. Out of that 20,000, 10,000 is grant funded. Community development has 96,500. Human resources has 30,000. Information technology, IT division has 27,000. And the last is the special projects. It's 5,650,000. This is anticipated that we get funding for these two projects. These projects will not move forward unless we have funding secured for them.
Do we have the Somerton redevelopment here?
That's on the enterprise.
Oh,
Enterprise
okay,
CIPs, yes. The total general CIPs is 8,134,797. Out of that, other financing or grant funding is 6,138,982. The next slide is our CIPs for public works. Water is a total of 1,563,500. Out of that, 1,285,000 is grant funded or apportionment funded. Wastewater is 1,078,472. Out of that, 1 million is 443,183 is grant funded. Sanitation is 40,000. HERF and Streets Division. This is where the Main Street redevelopment is located, Mayor. The total on that is $3,701,356. Out of that, $2,600,784 is grant funded or apportionment funded. This is where that additional 400,000 is coming from the 0.8. Fleet services is 27,500 and recycling plant is 15,500. Total public works CIPs is $6,426,328. Out of that, $4,328,967 is grant funded or apportionment funded. Any questions on any of those CIPs?
Any questions?
The next slide is our personnel requests and changes. We have 2 positions for Parks and Rec. Grounds maintenance crew and maintenance. one position that is going to be reclassified. As far as the permit technician to the plans examiner, this is a impact of $12,251. Communication and media specialist for the economic development department. Customer service specialist for the finance department. And a finance administrator. This is a reclassification, which will have a impact of $12,920.70. We have a billing administrative supervisor for fire. This is also a reclassification. And the impact is, I believe, $8,234. Police officer. Sorry, I skipped one. Billing specialist for full-time. They currently have a part-time. I did not get a calculation, but it is a part-time moving to a full-time position. And I did not do the calculation for the financial impact. Police officers, department is budgeting for 3 police officers additional, which making it a roster of 14 police officers. This includes the SROs. And an admin assistant for the police department. City clerk, this is also a reclassification. This is a $14,851 reclassification budgetary impact. IT manager, this is also a reclassification. Public Works customer service rep. For all this person will be under Public Works and will be for all departments. And then the streets and sanitation manager, this is only to put a title to the manager for streets and sanitation. He currently is just under manager. So just to allow an actual title. Any questions on the positions? In closing, over the past year and 9 months in my position, I've worked diligently to ensure our projects and expenses are properly coded and allocated. Revenue is collected in a timely manner and our financial processes are consistently followed. While there have been challenges along the way, the collaboration support of everyone who works for the city has been key. Together, we're making great strides in strengthening our financial foundation, supporting the city's growth, and aligning our budget with the priorities that matter the most to our communities. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Mayor, I actually have one question on the positions.
Yeah.
Because I
Go
know
ahead.
for Parks and Rec, they based it off of an old time study. And previously, when I met with staff, I made comments that that time study was a little skewed. And since then, since that particular time study, we have outsourced a lot of these retention basins. So I'm still not sure why they're trying to justify or they're asking for additional staff that is dedicated for parks maintenance when we actually went out to bid and we outsourced a lot of their responsibilities.
Mayor, okay.
Yes.
Councilman Villalpando? The time study was done throughout the fiscal year 25. It's current. It's actually was done in-house. I know that you made some comments in regards to the study, but it was not done off of an old time study. And then the districts, that budget is different from the general budget of what we're presenting here now in the work session. I can provide you the differences in the impacts of the outsourced for the vendor that we have now.
Yeah, and also like I mentioned, it all depends on who did the time study. it's always recommended that an outside party is the one that does the, uh, the time study, which it was done internally by within the department. And so back then it was identified the exact same employees that they're requesting, they requested them back then. But I don't understand how they could be requesting the exact same if back then there was more of a workload for that department. And I understand that it's, but as far as the monetary side is budgeted differently, but the total manpower that is requested equivalent to what was requested back then, and there was more acreage to cover. So I don't understand how this particular time study is now still in line with the other one when there was more workload.
And if we're gonna have, James, if you're gonna address that with the time study, please?
Councilman Villapando, I wasn't privileged to the former time study. I never even looked at it. So when we created our own time study, what we did is we contacted Buckeye, Arizona, because they just did a department time study. We got their process of how they did it, and we sat down and we designed our time study based off the process. The big thing to understand is our parks and maintenance crew, they don't just do the parks, they do the facilities, they do our recreational buildings, they do special events. They do all the work orders for the senior center up to the city hall. It's very important that you understand that we're not just the parks. Yeah, nothing with retention base. Well, a little bit of retention basin work was in there, replacing sprinkler heads, things that weren't in our contract with the landscapers. So when we did it, we did a prediction of what we thought it would take. Then we actually went out and actually performed the time study, had the crew members take the sheets and process them. We processed them. When we found incidents or things that we're going over, it's not perfect. It's an ongoing thing where we're going to go every 6 months and review the information with admin and make sure that we're on pace. But the one thing that our time study showed is that due to the time we're spending in facilities, we're not spending that time in parks. And that's number one thing that's taken. The rentals, we're spending a lot of time cleaning up the rentals, taking care of the rentals, setting up that stuff. And we're missing out on the inspections of the parks as far as that's what the crew leader's for. Making sure that we're checking playground equipment. We're looking at the safety of the parks and kind of keeping track of what's going on in our parks so that we can stay up. That's the two parties is we're taking care of the
So-
maintenance side, and then we're taking care of the leadership side.
So you mean to tell me that you gave work orders and they pretty much the employees timed themselves on how long it would take them to complete the particular duties given?
Not Rodney and Herman had a lot of that tracking.
Well,
They were,
'cause
and then they
you
dumped
just-
the timesheets on myself and the office staff, so we were separate from the timesheets. But like I said, we did the prediction with using the Buckeyes, like how long it takes them to do things, and we used their prediction numbers, and we're right on track with what Buckeye has done.
Yeah, but Buckeye is also spread through a larger area, and I'm sure they allocate time for travel time. So again, the only way that you could really get a comprehension of how long things take is by actually you as a supervisor being out there and measuring all these measurements, for the lack of a better word, that you have in order to create and to assess whether they're working efficiently, and two, there is a need. But if you're telling me that you gave just work orders and then they came back and told you how long it took them, well, we don't even know at what pace or what kind of downtime there was. And that's where I'm saying that it has to be an independent person doing these time studies. And so, and as far as Parks and Rec, I thought you guys had a facility, somebody dedicated to facilities that was taking care of all these facilities. Why not expand on facilities if that's what's taking up the bulk of the time? And and request an additional person for facilities versus Parks and Rec.
Right
Anyhow.
now Councilman, right now we have one person in our facilities division. They're mainly at City
Exactly.
Hall. Letty is the, what? Sorry.
Councilman Villalpando, the
Yes.
Division of Facilities was, at least the last few years, has only been, budgeted actually for operation expenses and no salaries. Most of the salaries were in the Parks and Rec division. When it got broken off, which I believe it was maybe a couple of years ago, as a division of its own, it was only budgeted for one position. So therefore, the maintenance crew that's on, the Parks and Rec division budget, is the people that are in facilities. So they kind of coincide.
Correct.
It's just it's not applied to the facilities budget.
Correct, and that's why right now is the time, you guys are asking for reclassifications, you guys are asking to move titles because of their job descriptions are not matching their actual job duties. So why not do that now instead of creating more positions into the Parks and Rec maintenance when you're realistically needing them in facilities? I just don't understand that. We're trying to clean up, not create more of a mess and later on have to clean up that mess that we made.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
6:30, meeting's adjourned.